this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to tell the time in French. So we are going to answer the question, quelle heure est-il? So in today's lesson, I'm going to cover something slightly more complicated than the first video where I covered the basics. But let's have a look at my clock. Now, of course, I cover this very topic in my course, learnfrenchwithalexa.com, where I go into a lot of details on how to answer the question, quelle heure est-il? In today's video, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible, though it turns out telling the time in French is not as simple as you think. So let's have a look at my screen. I have a clock here. Okay, in the first video where we covered the basic, we learned that how to say it is 1 o'clock would be il est 1 heure, il est 2 heures, il est 3 heures. And of course, in order to be able to tell the time in French, you need to know your numbers, okay? I'm not covering that in details, but if you want to learn your numbers, I've done many videos about numbers in French. Ultimately, you need to know your numbers from 1 to 60. We've got numbers from 1 to 12, okay? Because of 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and so on. Il est 1 heure. So, for example, we've learned in the first video that 1 o'clock was il est 1 heure. Okay, you've got to say 1 heure. And the way we write that in French is like this, okay? It's quite different as to the English ways of writing the time, whereby you would have a dot in between the two numbers. Here, il est 1 heure. Il est 2 heures, il est 3 heures, il est 4 heures, etc. And this will be for the morning, le matin. Because as you know or not, in French, we tend to use the 24-hour clock. If we were to use just the 12-hour clock, we will precise whether it is in the morning or in the afternoon. So, for example, il est 1 heure de l'après-midi. We would add it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Or il est 2 heures de l'après-midi. We also learned in the first video how to say quarter past, quarter to, and half past. And I'm not going to cover this into details. Please watch the other video for that. But what's very important here is the minutes now. I want to concentrate on the 24-hour clock and the minutes. So, if you wanted to say it is 1:05, for example, well, in French, you would do it this way. You need to know your numbers from 1 to 60 in order to be able to do that. So let's have a look at this. 5 in French is 5, okay? 5. Now, il est 1 heure, and then you add the minutes, 5. Quite simple. So you wouldn't say it is 1:05, you would say it's 1:05. Okay, so you would write it this way. Il est 1 heure, and then 5 minutes. 5, quite simply. Okay, so you would do that for all the numbers, counting the numbers up to 12 to start with. Then it becomes a little bit more complicated. So we have, for example, this time. So let's say that it's 5. It's 5:20. So, and we have 20 minutes past the 5 o'clock mark, okay? So what do we say in French? Well, you say it like this, 5:20, because it's 20 minutes. Now remember, learn your minutes. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Il est 5:20. Quite simply. Do you see what we've done here? And if it was in the afternoon, you would add de l'après-midi. Il est 5:20 de l'après-midi, par exemple. But as you know, if we want to state it is happening in the afternoon, you would see it most probably in French, you would see it using the 24-hour clock, which I'm going to show you in 1 minute. So, minutes, 20, 25, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, okay? 56, 57, 58, 59, and then we stop, okay, at 59. So let's have a look at one quick one because we are into the minutes at the moment. Okay, I'm removing this. And what time is it? quelle heure est-il? So let's see that we have a 7 o'clock mark, okay? But past 45 minutes here. So how would you say 7:45 in French? Now you need to know your numbers. Yes, so we start quite simply. It is 7 hours. So il est 7 heures. And then you add 45 minutes. 45. 45. Here we go. Il est 7h45. Okay? Now, you may say, but also 7h45 is 8 o'clock minus 15 minutes, which we do in French, because we've learned in the first lesson that minus a quarter is moins le quart. So you could quite possibly say, il est 8 heures moins le quart. Okay, we've learned écart and a quarter, and we've learned et demi and a half. When it comes to doing the 24-hour clock, it becomes slightly more complicated with more exceptions. And this is what I want to show you now. Okay, so let's have a look at my 24-hour clock. Of course, 1 o'clock becomes 13 heures. Okay, il est 13 heures. 14 heures, 15 heures, 16 heures, see where we are here, 17 heures, 18 heures, 19 heures, 20 heures, 21 heures, 22 heures, et puis 23 heures. And of course, you pass the 23 o'clock mark and it becomes minuit for midnight. And by the way, midday is midi. Well done. You know your clock very well. So what happens then if we want to say, for example, it is, so here we go. I'm going to say it's 8 o'clock p.m. Okay. But we are going to do this here. Okay. So we want to say it's 8:25, but we want to use the 24-hour clock. How do you do that? That's right. So you start with il est, and then you give me the hour. 8. 8 heures. Remember, there is an H in the middle in French. And then you add the minutes. Il est 8h25. Okay, you wouldn't say 25 past 8. It doesn't exist in French, okay? So you said it's 8 and this number of minutes. And you could do that for up to 55. Il est 8h25, il est 8h25, 8h30, 8h35. Now, because we are using the 24-hour clock, we want to point out that it's happening in the evening. So you do 20 o'clock. I know we can't say that, but you put 20. So, il est 20 heures, and then you add 25, 25. And you would do that for all the numbers after 1 p.m. So, 13. Il est 20h40. Il est 20h45. Il est 20h50. Il est 20h55, etc., etc. Do you understand what's happening here? You need to know your numbers from 0 to 60 in order to be able to tell the time in French. And a lot of the time, when you buy a train ticket, when you buy a plane ticket, everything is going to be given to you in the 24-hour clock. Okay? So let's have a look at one little exercise here. So, using the 24-hour clock, and I know you can only see numbers from 1 to 12 here. Using the 24-hour clock, what time is it now? Yes, it is. So 10 o'clock is 2200, okay? So il est 22 heures, and then we've got 35 minutes past that time. Okay, il est 22h35. You see what we are doing here? Il est 22h35. So there are many ways of saying the time in French. And what I'm going to show you is this. If we were to say it's 3:55, how would you say it in French? I'm giving you 4 options here. And maybe more than one option is possible. But which one of these options is not here? Okay, I'm helping you. Which one of these options is not? Il est 4h moins 5. Il est 3h55. Il est 16h moins 5. Il est 15h55. Which one of these options is not possible? So, you can say il est 4h moins 5. Now, the reason why 4h moins 5 here, and we can minus it here, is because we are using the 12-hour clock, such as the 1 to 12 clock. So we can say minus. But there is one where we're using a minus after 13 o'clock. Which one is it? It's C. And so that means that C, il est 16h moins 5, cannot work in French. However, il est 3h55 properly works because it's 3:55, and il est 15h55 works as well. Okay, so I hope I'm not confusing anybody here. But the bottom line is what? The bottom line is that you can't minus minutes using a number beyond 13 in French. Okay, that's what you have to remember. What doesn't work as well is that écart et demi moins le quart does not work after 13. So you wouldn't say il est 14h15. You wouldn't say il est 15h30. You wouldn't say il est 18h moins le quart. Okay? You wouldn't use that because we are going beyond the 13 o'clock. Okay? All this écart et demi moins le quart is used only for numbers from 1 to 12. And another thing that is very important to point out is that you cannot say moins 15. Ever. Okay, so you wouldn't say il est 15h moins 15 or you wouldn't say il est 3h moins 15. Now let's have a look at another example. We want to say 1:45, okay, but we want to say it in French. What are the possibilities here, knowing what I have just told you? A, 13h45. B, 2h moins le quart. C, 14h moins le quart. Et D, 2h moins 15. Okay, what works, what doesn't work? Okay, 1h45 definitely works by saying 13h45. Okay, it works. If you count, if for example, we point out that it's in the evening, in 1:45 p.m., would become 13h45. However, 2h moins le quart, 2h moins le quart, which is 1:45, is this possible in French? Absolutely. You can say 2h moins le quart. Why can you say 2h moins le quart? Because we are not exceeding the 13 hours. Okay, so you can minus if you want. Okay, il est 2h moins le quart. However, can you say il est 14h moins le quart? Can you say il est 14h moins le quart? No. Why is that? It's because you cannot exceed 13 o'clock and use moins le quart ou écart ou et demi. Okay? And can you say 2h moins 15? Like 2 o'clock minus 15 minutes? You can't do that either. Remember that we do not say moins 15, we would say moins le quart, which is B. So the answers to that will be A and B. So basically, you've got to decide whether you're speaking in the 12-hour clock or in the 24-hour clock, because in French, telling the time, the rules are different, whether you use one or the other. And of course, I use this in way more details in my course at learnfrenchwithalexa.com. And of course, we have made a full support guide written down for you, available if you click on the join button of my main YouTube channel. And if you want a refresher on the basics, have a look at this video here. That's it for me. Au revoir, à bientôt. Bisous, bisous.